Okay.
And yes, we are live. I'm here with my new friend Dean. How are you doing, Dean?
I'm doing great, David. Hope you're doing good as well.
Well, it's snowy and wintry up here. What's it like down where you're at?
Well, it's blustery. We're under a tornado warning. It's
Ooh.
gone from a watch to a warning, and it's about 70 degrees.
Well, the weather looks beautiful outside your window there, but I'm not sure
Yeah,
that's
that is
any.
that is an illusion. Yes.
So,
I promise you that.
looks nice though. So, yeah, I always ask my guests to start the show by going way back to childhood, talking about, how you were raised, if there was any faith or philosophy that dominated the home, how you reacted and how you grew, your own journey, and how you ended up where you are today and what you believe today.
Okay. Well, I was raised as a Catholic
Oh,
and went through Catholic high school. Began academic studies. Actually, began in science, and that didn't last. And I had a ambition of being a physician in the course of studies at university. I discovered that I really liked chemistry, but I could not stand biology. And it's tough to be a physician unless you're into biology. So we went to the opposite side of the campus and entered humanities programs and majored in philosophy and psychology. So
oh,
it was 100,
wow.
talk about 180 degree.
Wow. Well, that's very interesting. I mean, we'll have to talk about the philosophy side. But
Okay.
did you ever have any religion in the home growing up, or did you dabble with anything on your own, Eastern religions or anything like that?
Well, in high school, had a lot of questioning. Began reading more diversely, and a lot of questionings. It was pretty much rote, as it is, I think, for most children. The indoctrination of whatever parental guidance is offered. The older that I got, the more questioning began in pretty significant pursuit of philosophical concepts and so forth. And that after graduation, I did some graduate work in philosophy and then went out into the cold, cruel world and was trying to make a living, not as a philosopher, but in business world. And that dominated my activities and orientations for um, up until probably about 50ish. And in about that age, and I don't have a specific um, time or date or whatever, but my orientation began expanding towards more diverse. Well, let me back up. All through this period, I had a keen interest in exploring, primarily because of the basis of
Did we lose you? Can you still
a
hear me?
belief
Okay,
standpoint,
you're
but
back.
from understanding their. You still there?
Your signal dropped just for a little bit, so I may have missed
I
something like
blinked.
that. Yeah, it blinked.
Okay. I'm sorry.
But
Sorry.
just keep up. Yeah, just keep going. You were talking about the diverse things that you encountered and started dabbling with.
Yeah, and read a lot about other religions and from a philosophical standpoint, not from so much a standpoint of my own interest for a belief system. And I encountered my spouse and I both had an interest in some readings that we did that simply referred to as the raw material. And it's a series of 5 books and other communications that were provided in the early 80s by an entity identified as Ra, which is the same Ra that the Egyptians identified. But it was very enlightening and resonated very um, dramatically to both of us, and it began a pursuit and expansion of that to other readings and communications and so forth. So I began meditating about that same time, actually a little bit before, and so I had some personal experiences along those lines that were quite dramatic and informative, and those continue today. Today, I've written 4 books. My compendium book is to be released in 2024, and it is pretty much a compendium of all that I've learned to date from my explorations, and um, do a podcast called Chatting with the Arcturians, and working on the 25th episode, which is a chat. It's a communication with what I think most people would consider to be alien beings. They're not alien beings, they're just a little bit more advanced part of creation, and have long had an interest in assisting the earthly population with their own advancement. So that pretty much brings us up to date in summary. Does that prompt any
Yeah.
questions
Yeah, of
on
course.
your
Yeah, yeah,
part?
yeah. How many siblings do you have, and what do your siblings and parents think about your journey into, what might be considered kooky New Age spiritualism and all that?
Well, no siblings,
No.
so no sibling rivalries, no
You're the favorite.
siblings.
You're the favorite child, huh?
The one and only. I'm the most favorite and the least favorite, all in one.
Oh. What'd your parents think though? Were they practicing Catholics or just sort of nominally,
uh,
culturally Catholic?
my father was never really a practicing Catholic. My mother was, and she had some difficulties with the church, and um, began pretty significantly to surrender her childhood rearings and orientations as well. So she was much more open minded than, I would say, the average parent,
Oh,
and
okay.
was kind of followed my lead
Oh,
actually in
really?
my explorations. Yeah,
Really? What about your
yeah.
dad's parents? Were they religious Christian at all, or what?
My dad's parents,
Yeah.
uh, didn't know them.
Oh, okay.
They were not part of
Okay.
uh, our experience, and
Okay.
nor were my mother's parents.
Okay. So
And
you don't, yeah. But
she had
your mom was raised Catholic, but you don't know about your dad how he was raised.
he was raised. He converted to Catholicism when they got married, so he
I
was
see.
raised as a Protestant.
Okay, 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 okay. So it might have been a conversion of convenience, as is often the case, sadly, but that's just the way it
And I
goes.
think you can refer to it more as a draft than anything.
We got some more numbers. Yay. We try to go for quality, not quantity.
I
But
understand.
yeah. But so when it comes to Raw, I mean, I like the music of Sun Ra as a jazz guy, a kooky jazz guy. I actually saw him here in Montreal. He was doing cartwheels on the stage at age, he was in his mid 70s, I think, when I saw him here in
Good for
Montreal.
him.
Yeah. So, I mean, he was into the whole space jazz thing. And, I like space rock, Hawkwind and different
Hmm.
bands like that. So,
Okay.
I'm sympathetic to, the fantasy world and all that sort of thing. But to me, Christianity is true, and any sort of spirits or spirit guides or anything like that, to me, they're just demons, until further notice. Like,
Hmm.
if I had some spirit reaching out to me, I just rebuke them in the name of Jesus Christ. Have you tried that?
No, the premise of Raw's messaging and all of the messagings from other sources that I've communicated with are the reiteration and expansion of the understanding that all is one, and in that is the concept of what you refer to as demons, or angels, or
Yeah.
whatever, are all part of this experience. There's no attachment to right or wrong. There's only experience. And what the church refers to as demons actually are spirits that have chosen the path of separation from unity with the Creator.
Oh.
And their orientation is not to be demonic, but having chosen a separate path from reunification with the Creator, they have surrendered a lot, not the least of which is the vital energy that is provided to all of us on a constant basis. And so, consequently, by that separation, they are more than slightly motivated to sustain that because their power, which is a deceptive phrase, but it's the only one that we have that identifies that, um, is contingent upon the continuation of that flow, but also the increase of that flow of called intelligent energy. And intelligent energy fuels our awareness. Our awareness is what escalates our consciousness and our um, growth through the process of enlightenment, which is synonymous with our consciousness evolution. And so, consequently, they are, in order to polarize negatively, polarize along the service to self path, they are uh, motivated to skip that portion of their evolutionary development that we identify as love. And love being an inherent part of the Creator and one of 5 inherent characteristics of the Creator, awareness being the foundational inherent characteristics that we regain as we evolve through the process, because that love they deem to be a folly. And so their advancement requires that they actually become very powerful because they have to skip that aspect of their learning, of their curriculum um, study. And they skip from awareness to wisdom, which is the next level of learning that we will undergo. And in that wisdom, with awareness, with this additional power, without that necessary step for balance of love, they become punitive, predatory, fear invoking, because at the range of consciousness that we experience, we're very naive and we are very susceptible to fear induced experiences that cause us to liberate the excess energy that we have available to us. They feed off of that to maintain their posture and further advancement of their own path. This aspect, it's a relatively small aspect of creation that has polarized negatively. The Earth population has a diverse situation in that we have had great difficulty with evolving past the lower ranges of the dimensions of the range of consciousness that we currently exist within for a variety of reasons. But we are a prime suspect for providing them with the energy that they need. And so the concepts of demonism, intrusion into our experiences, the shaping, the hegemonies that they have the service to self has been successful inducing into our environment, into our population, has been very effective. And their objective is in part to keep us suppressed within the lower awareness levels of our range of consciousness, because we have become a staple of their source of energy to sustain and maintain their posture within the service to self paths.
Who are the big household names throughout history and including contemporary today, philosophers or gurus or whatever, big household names who believe roughly what you believe about ultimate reality and the spirit world and the evolution of the.
I don't know any philosophers that do. I don't, Jesus, the Buddha, to a difficult, um, through a difficult life. Muhammad was originally a um, prophet of the law of one, but he had some difficulties. Lao Tzu, Kuan Yin, there have been multitudes of them throughout history, and even more than the spiritual names that we recognize as primary messengers. There have been millions of others that have had more incremental task of providing portions of the information to the populace, and its information has been provided repeatedly over time, and has been distorted or lost or whatever, but has not been available to us.
So do you
In,
read do
in
you read all the wisdom literature of all the big popular religions of the East and the West, or where do you go to
well,
feel to fill
I
your?
have, well, I have read, but most of it is incomplete. As I say, most of the information has been lost or distorted over time. Um, my sources of information are much more direct, and I find difficulty reading the information that is generally available because it is incomplete. It's not gratifying to me at this point.
Have you ever heard about the Raelians?
No.
They were a UFO cult here in Montreal, and well, it started in France. The French guy, Rael, that's his name, and he told a story about being abducted and this and that, and he got a cult following, and they do allegedly they do sex orgies and stuff like that. So that attracts membership. But there are a lot. My point here is there are a lot of kooky cults who believe stuff about space and whatever. I'm just wondering how would you know that you're not being deceived? How do you test the spirits? How do you test like this raw character that you interact with? How do you test like what's the final authority? Is it your own understanding? Are you leaning on your own understanding? Are you using private judgment to sort of gauge what is true, what is not true? How do you discern that? Because for me as a Christian, I relinquish my control in terms of truth, ultimate truth and reality, and I submit to the church that Christ built. So who are you submitting to? Are you just submitting to your own judgment, or is there some body, like, are you
Well,
submitting to?
let me to answer that. Let me answer that with a question. What is it that you seek to? Um, what is the benefit that you hope to achieve by surrendering your decision making to the church?
Well, to know, well, first of all, because I'm fallible, I'm finite, and I'm a wretched sinner. I want to die to self and live unto Christ, and for me, Christ is God, and for me, God is that than which nothing greater can be conceived. The uncaused first cause. That
Well, what is your purpose
the purpose.
as David? What is your purpose
Well, the
in
purpose
life?
the purpose is to know God, to love God, and to serve God in this life, and then with a view to being happy with God forever in the next life. That's the purpose of life. So it's to enjoy God. To
What's
enjoy
the
God.
purpose of creation? Let's start with that,
Yeah,
and then
that's
we'll work down to the
the
individual.
purpose of creation was God just in his generous outpouring of creativity and love freely. It wasn't of necessity, but freely deciding to glorify himself. He didn't need to do it, but he everything in creation glorifies God Some creatures glorify God on purpose. That's what I'm trying to do. And other creatures who are not glorifying God on purpose, they just do it accidentally. But all the glory goes to God. The point of creation is that it's a reflection of God's goodness, his unbounded love and creativity and beauty and truth and his unity too.
For what purpose, though?
The purpose, I mean, the purpose of God creating, I don't know what the purpose is, but the purpose is to increase his own glory, to share his love, I guess. I don't know. I would need to see what the church actually teaches about that. But there's no necessity, right? It's a free act of generous love and sharing. Like, he created creatures who are sentient, who are able to love, who are able to choose freely. And with that choice comes the possibility of abuse. Like, you talked about those who are the sort of demonic side, the dark side, where they don't experience love, and they're just sort of like leeches on power and energy of other creatures. I mean, this is the dichotomy, like what St. Augustine says about, there are two cities. In the city of God, he wrote, there are two cities characterized by two loves: love of self unto contempt of God, and love of God unto contempt of self. So basically, in your story that you tell about the dark side, and you made it sound like it's a pretty small minority of creatures who are on the dark side, but maybe it's 1/3 according to the Christian perspective. I don't know, but it's a significant portion from my perspective, and it's a battle that's raging in each individual human too. Like St. Paul talks about this, if you recall from your Christian days, the sort of the inner law of the flesh that's railing against that spiritual desire to please God. So that's the trial that we're facing because of the fall of our first parents, Adam and Eve. Like, that's the situation we find ourselves in. I'm inclined to be selfish. I'm inclined to go for short-term pleasure rather than walking the narrow path of Christ and carrying my cross and uniting myself with the sufferings of Christ. It's more tempting in this life just to kick back and be selfish and do the easy thing and take the highway to hell. So I don't know if that rambling answer tells you anything about my worldview, but it's basically.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that,
Yeah.
and I'm not critical of that.
Yeah.
The law of one. Um, the law of one is the one immutable truth of creation, that all is one, which means all that we experience, including ourselves, is the creator experiencing itself. And the
Yeah.
purpose of creation, as professed by the law of one, is that the purpose of creation is so that the one infinite creator might know itself by experiencing itself. Now, accepting that or not accepting that, and using a little Socratic exploration, what makes that possible? If that were the case, that the purpose of creation is so that the one infinite creator might know itself by experiencing itself, what would make that possible? Well, if you're the one infinite creator, you are all that there is. How can you experience yourself? Well, in order to do that, you have to create a distortion. And distortion that was created, the one infinite creator initially projected two concepts. One infinite creator became aware and projected two concepts. The first concept was infinity. It is a concept. It is not an actual physical thing. And a parallel concept that was projected was intelligence, which created an environment of intelligent infinity. And within that conceptual intelligent infinity, the one infinite creator projected the first distortion. The first distortion was free will. Now, philosophers for centuries have debated whether we have free will, whether we don't have free will, whether life is predetermined, yada, yada, yada. But that misses the point. Free will is the concept of the perception of separation. So we perceive ourselves to be separate from the creator. but we're way down on the totem pole. We're way down through the process of creation. So the projection of free will, the perception of separation, created essentially it did create the creator as the subject, which then established the creator as the object, the original one infinite creator, and the creator as the subject, which is a distortion of the creator as the object, which allowed the creator as the object to observe itself. The creator as the subject had all of the creative capabilities of the creator as the object, only it perceived itself as separate from the one infinite creator. The creator as the subject, having the same ambitions as the creator as the object, thereafter began to create creation. Everything that we perceive is within the concept of the creator as the subject. The creator as the subject is consciousness. Everything within creation is consciousness. Consciousness can be defined as our creatorness intoxicated with free will. So the more intoxicated we are with free will, the lower our awareness and the further from the creator we perceive ourselves, which allows us to explore the creatorness that we are in infinite measure. The concept of service to self is simply another path of exploration of the creator in the process of creation. The process of creation sends our creatorness as far away from the creator perceptually as possible. And our task through evolution is to evolve through the separation of our concept of free will to eventual reunification with the creator. And in that process is our explanation of life by having experiences.
I see a website called lawof1.info. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
Are
That's
you
the communications that Raw had with the LL research people.
okay? You're connected with them. Are you active on contributing to this site or no?
No, they're independent from what I'm doing, but I know them quite well. I knew Carla was the primary instrument that communicated with Raw, and Don and Jim. Jim is still alive. Don and Carla have both died,
Okay.
but they functioned as a group in order to provide the communications with Raw.
L. What are the two L's for?
Love and Light.
Okay. I'm just wondering. Listening to you talk, it sounds a lot like Buddhism. Certain forms of Buddhism where
Well,
there's just the one mind of God, and there's really no danger. Like there's no eternal hell that you can get stuck in. There's just the
right.
one mind of God, and separation is illusion. So really, I mean, it's not really conducive to morality when you think about it, because it's just like you said, it's just the dark path is just another path. It's just another exploration that God's
It
doing,
is, yes,
right?
but
So
it
there's no morality. There is no morality. Let's be real. There's no morality in your worldview, just
well,
like
where
there
does
is in.
morality come from?
Well, you would say the illusion of it's an illusion that's created by free will, right? You would say that because there's this
The lack of
distortion. It's
morality,
a distortion.
the lack of morality is created by the illusion of free will. The process, if you, what the church deems to be saints,
Yeah.
okay, they're generally the characteristics that they're integrous, they generally are moral, all of these attributes that we, as a productive society, um,
Value those.
have as ambitions.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, but what they are demonstrating is their higher consciousness. As we evolve, then the conundrums that you are describing begin to disappear because we are evolving towards unity with the Creator.
And it's inevitable, right?
It It is inevitable.
Yeah.
You can get there eventually, or you
You can
can
take the
get
fast way
there.
or the slow way. You take the fast way or the slow way, and you got nothing to
Well,
say. If someone comes to you and says, "I want to be really selfish," you got nothing to say to them. You could just say, "Bon voyage," like have a nice trip. That's it.
yeah, have a good trip. Hope you enjoy it. Well, the path of unity, the evolution of unity with the Creator is considered to be the direct path. The service to self path is deemed to be the indirect path, because you will evolve. The uh, We are in what's called the third density. Okay, the third density is the beginning density of three experiential densities. The sixth density is the beginning of the creator being densities. Ra was a social memory complex of the sixth density. The sixth density is primarily concerned with the day-to-day evolution or creation of the lower densities, the lower experiential densities, and the foundational densities, which are the first and second density. The third density is we are tasked with becoming aware. And as we reach the upper dimensions of the density, becoming awareness. And it's, if you think of it, that as being third grade. And in third grade, you've got to learn the lessons of third grade. You've got to learn the curriculum of third grade in order to graduate to fourth density, because you need that third density foundation in order to do the work of fourth grade. You can't go to fourth grade without having the curriculum requirements satisfied in third grade. The same is true with third density. We're learning the lessons of awareness. And as I indicated early in our conversation, the earthly population has had great difficulty in advancing beyond the lower dimensions of the density for a variety of reasons. And so consequently, we continue to have wars, we continue to have all of the lack of moral, lack of integrity behaviors that we are alluding to, because we have not, as a populace, been able to evolve past those elementary levels of the density. The purpose of Buddha, the purpose of Jesus, the purpose of all of the people that we had alluded to as spiritual um, um, teachers, messengers, was to provide an example for us not to worship, but to emulate and to transform our um, perceptions of self to resonate with their perceptions of self, and thereby give up the intensely heavy intoxication of free will. And it's referred to as an intoxication of free will because it has exactly the same effect as whiskey has. When you drink whiskey, it lowers your awareness. And so you do bizarre things that you would not normally do if you were not intoxicated with the whiskey. Free will has the same effect. The more intoxicated with free will that we are, the more aberrant behavior, to what higher consciousness may deem to be silly, absurd, whatever. And while we maintain that perception of self as separate, as heavily intoxicated with free will, we continue to experience stress. And stress is our teacher. When we experience stress, we are being provided with the opportunity to become aware of the lessons that we have not learned from our experiences, number one, but number two, become aware of the beliefs that we have incorporated into our hierophant that are perpetuating our unhappiness, our stress, our suffering.
You probably don't believe that the physical material stuff that allegedly makes up the physical universe exists, right? It's just an illusion of some sort. Are you comfortable calling yourself an idealist, that separation is illusion, but to go one step further, all this material stuff what appears to be material stuff is also illusion. Are you comfortable saying admitting that too, or do you think there's some
Well,
reality to
yeah,
the
that
universe?
well, what we perceive to be, I had alluded to earlier the foundational densities, which is still consciousness.
Is it
It,
real?
it
Is it real though? Is this universe real
it's
or no?
all of creation is
It's real.
conceptual.
Oh, it's
All of
conceptual.
all
Okay.
of creation is conceptual. But to us, because of our low level of awareness, we perceive the authenticity of the physical world. The physical world, as we perceive it, is actually the projection, the creation of the lowest ranges of consciousness, which essentially you can break down into the four elements. Um, Fire is the most elemental of consciousness, a range of consciousness. The manifestation, that is the physical manifestation of consciousness at that lowest level. Water is the next manifesting level. Then we have atmosphere, which is more diverse, a higher range of consciousness, and so it is more diverse than either the water or the fire. And then we have the material matter, which is dimensional diversity, but each um, element on the periodic table is a manifestation of consciousness at that um, density, at that dimension, that range of consciousness. This is all, the creation is all on a scale that corresponds to our DNA. And the ranges of consciousness for first density are from 2 to 8. Second density is between 10 and 16. Third density ranges between 18 and 24. So if your degree of awakening is at a 20 level, then you're going to be in third density, and you're going to be about midway through the evolution of third density consciousness.
What do you?
The
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. Go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, there is a distinct placement between each density. So, in other words, if the same consciousness, which is the creatorness, intoxicated with free will, were moved from first density to third density at, say, the 20 level, then that same consciousness would essentially behave the same as all the other consciousness that was of the same degree of advancement. So, in other words, it's not necessary to progress from density dimension to dimension in order to function within a density.
There are a lot of people out there. I don't know if you're aware of the fact, but a lot of people out there selling books and courses and stuff like that, making a lot of money. I'm not saying that you are, but uh, how, you know, how do you? How does someone, let's say there's some naive young adult who's looking for truth, and they want to sign up for this, new age course or that new age course. How would you recommend, because you're preaching sort of a lot of the same things as these courses, how would you treat this young adult and sort of warn them against people that are just trying to take advantage of them, frankly? Like, how do you, because in for example, in the Catholic Church, we have this expression that there are wolves in sheep's clothing. Okay, so you might have good intentions. You might not be trying to rip people off and get rich off the naive, people that are seeking the truth. But there are people out there that are. So how do you arm someone who's young and naive, that's easily susceptible to a bunch of nonsense? How would you warn them against all these new age cults that are springing up all over the place? I'm sure you're aware of it. What would you say to arm them?
I encourage them not to join a church or join a cult, but to do the work that is prescribed and explore themselves.
Because I've been
You
watching a
say,
lot of movies. I've been watching a lot of documentary movies about all these cults that spring up, and the leaders at the top, they get rich, and not only do they get rich, they get a lot of sex. Because that's what
well,
some of these self-serving
it,
people they like. They like
yeah.
money, power, and sex. Apparently,
How is the church different?
well, it's not different. It's corrupt, and it's the people that like power, money, and sex. It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
But
That's
yeah,
the
so
danger. That's the danger. That's the danger. That's what I'm talking about. Wolves in sheep's clothing. You've got good innocent people, with good intentions, and you also have people that are preying on the weak and the innocent. So I'm just
okay,
wondering, with your worldview, it doesn't seem like you're equipped to warn someone because there's actually no danger. There's no actual real danger. But from my perspective, if I know of a bad priest, I'll warn my friends sincerely, like, don't listen to them, don't go to them, don't get the sacraments from them, don't confess to them, because they're a wolf in sheep's clothing, because there's a real danger.
But
Like, hell is
how do
real.
you
Hell
know?
is real. Hell is real.
Okay, well, that is part of your identity. You've incorporated that belief into your identity. That's part of your
But you
hegemony.
don't have that. That's the problem. You don't have that. You don't have that. See,
You're right.
what I have is I have, like, hard lines in the sand. You can't cross this line. There's certain beliefs that we have to
If
hold
if
on to,
if if you are happy with that dogma, then you need to stay there.
Yeah. But my point of my question here is, you're not in a position to help people because you don't think that they're actually in danger. That's what concerns me about your worldview and a lot of these new age people that believe in the oneness and all that sort of thing. I also believe, that all is one, because I believe that God is the ultimate reality, and we are nothing
But
compared to
you,
God. So I
but what
sympathize.
is
I
the
sympathize.
foundation of the church? But what is the foundation of the church? What is any religion based upon? What is the
Love.
foundational belief of any religion? No, no. It's based upon the perception of separation, that there's you and there's God.
Well, that's not the case in Buddhism,
Sure it is.
because Buddhism says
That
that the separation is illusion. Separation is illusion.
Buddhism is a religion. Buddha was not a Buddhist. Jesus was not a Christian.
Yeah, that's your claim, but I mean,
Well,
it might be the case. No,
the
but
church wasn't founded for 300 years after Jesus died.
well,
Jesus was not a Christian.
that's not
Jesus
what we
was a
believe.
messenger.
That's not what we believe. That's not what the church teaches. The church teaches that Christ
I understand that.
built the church, and it says in the Bible Christ built the church. But I mean, I'm not trying to fight with you about my worldview versus yours, but I'm just trying to emphasize the fact that if you don't have an eternal consequence for the choices that we make,
Well, you think,
then
see, therein is the problem with a lot of religions, including Christianity, that there is a punitive aspect to the Creator.
well, I mean, it's
You
just
you think that,
that's the
well, you're
danger.
doing good, so you're gonna burn in hell forever because we love you.
That's the danger of freedom, right? Is like you can use your
There's
freedom,
no
or
danger to freedom.
you can abuse your freedom. Well, if
There's
there's
no
no
danger in freedom.
the reason that I'm passionate about this subject is because about hell and heaven, and that never the twain shall meet. The reason I'm passionate about it, that our choices matter, is because if you could convince me, God forbid, if you could convince me of your worldview, then I would just seek pleasure.
Why? No, you wouldn't. What is pleasure? What is pleasure? That's an excellent topic.
Well,
What?
my next meal, that's pleasure.
Okay, so that's a transient. That's very
Of
transient. So
course,
you've
of
eaten.
course, of
You're
course.
satiated for the moment.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I
And when
understand that. I
another
understand.
pleasure,
I
you see,
understand that. I
as
understand that.
we evolve, as we evolve, this hierophant that we form, and we're designed to create this hierophant. Okay, the hierophant in and of itself has an evolution within the hierophant. The lower consciousness portions of our experience compel those who are unaware to seek immediate gratification. Whatever they do with their day, what they deem to be pleasing to them is going to be immediate gratification. And that is characteristic of the lower levels of consciousness in our range of consciousness. As we evolve, and it's actually there before we evolve, is what we deem to be the middle part, which is the social part. And all of these ideologies that we incorporate into our hierophant concepts of religion, right and wrong, you should be a gentleman or you should be a lady, whatever it is, all of these things go into the social part. As you evolve out of the lowest levels, which are immediate gratification, uh, you evolve more where you resonate more consistently in the social level. So you are again, not thinking, you're functioning under what has been absorbed by you into this hierophant. Now, hierophant is a false self. As you further revolve, you become aware of the more basic aspects of your hierophant, which are, for example, that you were inhabiting a body, that you are a male, that you are a white male, you are living in a certain part of um, Canada, in your case. Those are more basic elements, but those two you become aware as being false, of being transient, until you get to the point that you can feel your essence of true self beyond these characteristics of the hierophant. As we use our awareness to do that, then we have, for the most part, learned the curriculum of this range of consciousness, which is awareness. And we prepare ourselves for moving on to the next range of study, course of study, which is fourth density. Now, the interesting thing about it is the third density that we have experienced has a time limit. It A third density experience lasts for about 75, 76,000 years. The third density experience that we have come to believe is our experience ended in 2016. And we are actually living, those of us who are still alive, are living in a fourth density world that is in transition. The children, overwhelmingly, that are being born and have been born since the mid 2006, 2007, are fourth density children. They're different. They're a higher consciousness than our populace, the general bulk of the populace. And so the transformation to fourth density is well underway and not to be stopped at this point. And so when you're talking about love and Christ consciousness, that is fourth density. Fourth density is the density of love, that we learned love by having done the curriculum work in third density, graduated to fourth density. We will explore love from from the posture of becoming awareness, until at the end of fourth density, we will be love just as we have become awareness.
Can I ask a question here?
Certainly.
And we're gonna have to wrap it up, unfortunately, because I got some things
Okay.
to do here before my next interview.
All right.
Um,
Yeah.
but thanks for coming on and thanks for sharing. I strongly disagree with almost everything you're saying, but it's good to hear
Okay.
another perspective. It's good to hear another perspective, and and of course, I'll be praying for you, and I hope you'll do whatever your equivalent of prayer is for me. But the question I was going to ask you, oh no, I've completely forgotten my question I was going to ask you. It was very important, but yeah, unfortunately, I'm running late on time, so I can't continue right now. But
Okay.
thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me. Is there anything that you'd like to sort of wrap up as a final note? I'd like to give my guest the chance to close the
Well,
show with just a final thought
if
to
you or
anyone that's
your
out there.
guests would like to investigate this further, certainly the raw material, which is available to the general public now, is it's difficult to read because it's just difficult to read. But the enigma of consciousness, a spiritual exploration of humanity's relationship to creation, will be available. It's available now for pre-order through the John Hunt Publishing Company, and it will be available on bookshelves in mid 2004 if someone would like to get the whole picture.
Can they get any links from ddeangraves.org? Because that's the link I put in
Yeah,
your in.
right. Yeah, that's my website. And chatting with the Arcturians, we're discussing the same thing with the Arcturians now, and we're going through a curriculum process for the listening public now, which is the same information.
Have you had a lot of success on Podmatch, they gave me a free T-shirt. So
Oh, good.
do you like the service? Have you met a lot of podcasters? Am I your
I've
first?
met a few.
Am I your
No,
first Christian?
no, I have a lot of Christians that I'm close friends with.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, no, you're not the first Christian that I met.
No, but I mean in terms of a podcast host, like that we go on their the podcast. Like some of them might be Christian, some of the hosts of the
Yes, no,
podcast.
well, religion has not been the subject matter of my communications to date.
I wonder why we got matched, because we got matched on Podmatch. I wonder what that's all about.
Yeah,
Like maybe
I
just
don't know, but
spirituality in general.
spirituality in general, I'm sure. But I'm delighted to have talked
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I hope you didn't take
absolutely.
offense with my, my talk about hell and all that sort of stuff.
No, I do. I'm very familiar with all of that. I
Yeah.
don't take offense
Yeah, 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 yeah.
about any of it.
Very good. Well, we're going to hopefully in the new year we'll get to talk again, and I got to ask you a little bit more about Buddhism, because this is a topic I'm interested in. I want to hear your perspective on it, and
Okay.
I got a bunch more questions. But between now and then, I don't know if you celebrate Christmas and New Year's, but have a good holiday season anyway, whatever you do.
I hope you have a wonderful Christmas and a happy New Year.
Thank you so much. God bless you, my brother.
Likewise.
Take good
Thank you.
care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.